Next, we're going to ask Brett and James to come up here. Brett Headley is a mental health and well-being manager for the AFL Players Association. The AFL Players Association is a representative body of all the current and past professional Australian Football League players. Yes, you are. Indeed, you will. So, as I said before, if you wouldn't mind holding on your questions, and at the end, we've got time, and we'll be doing that. So, thanks for that. Okay? Yeah. Thank you very much. In line with his commitment, the AFL Players Association has a team dedicated to building good mental health, well-being, and life performance for the past and present AFL players. Okay, James Polkinghorne. James is a former professional Australian rules footballer who played in the Brisbane Lions and Essendon Football Club in the Australian Football League. Do we hold it against him? Since retirement from professional football, James has worked with the AFL Players Association on the Better Out Than In campaign, which has done some really good work there. The program has encouraged blokes to talk about their experiences, recommended positive actions, and how to support mates in need. Ladies and gentlemen, big warm welcome for Brent and James.
Thanks, Godfrey. Thanks very much. Set myself up here. Thanks, guys. Obviously, we're going to ride a little bit on Alison's coattails here with this presentation, in the sense that we've both been involved in a similar project, the Beyond Blue funded Stride project. So there's some real synergy in terms of the work that she was sharing there, and the approach in which we've taken to build our product, essentially. And today's an opportunity, I guess, for James and myself to sort of share a labour of love. It's been it's approaching sort of 2-year process to get this campaign up and out there, and really encouraging to share that data, to see that data start to come in and be able to share it with you guys today. Just as, I guess, really to set it up, I guess, our focus with this particular campaign, and I essentially started off project managing it, and then in turn handed it over to James. The project that we inherited was a relationship between the AFL Players Association, the AFL Coaches Association, and John and Jorgen at Mates in Construction. So, in essence, we're really fortunate to have that relationship established for us. We work pretty closely with the three organisations to essentially get a product out there that we feel as though really hit the mark in terms of the target audience. Essentially, what we were looking at was reframing the conversation. So shifting, I guess, the conversation from shame and secrecy and stigma to more around openness, acceptance and hope. And that was the challenge, I guess, that we faced, and we feel as though we did a reasonable job, but the evaluation data, as Alison said as well, is going to be really interesting to see how that presents it back into us. So the approach we took was I guess, an emphasis on rich storytelling. We've got, from an AFL players perspective anyway, association perspective anyway, we've got access to some quite high profile and very I guess some members of the public that carry with them a high level of public interest. So we saw that as a real opportunity to really tackle those behaviours and attitudes, and essentially normalise tough times. And I don't really quote John, but the insight that he provided in around this and the way in which they communicate with their communities basically boiled it down to a really simple focus for us, and that was that we're all handed a shit sandwich at some point in our life, and it's just a matter of what you do with it. And for our guys, that certainly spoke to the way in which they approached their own stories and the importance of storytelling for them as well. So I guess the approach we had was to use our target audience front and centre, and I guess when we're looking at the mental health side of things and depressive illness, try to approach it in the same manner that we would in a physical sense. So the next couple of slides, basically this is what we'll look at. It won't be 30 minutes, we'll probably carve it down to about 15, but we want to go through a bit of an overview of the project. We want to go through the content, because that's where the gold lies, and we'll cover off as well in terms of some of the key learnings from our perspective. with an opportunity, as Godfrey said as well, for feedback and questions at the end. In terms of the objectives, I think we covered it fairly well, and as I said before, there's certainly synergy with Alison's piece there as well. Our target audience is men aged 30 to 64. We're committed to developing a digital intervention first and foremost. As we were sort of towards the later stage of this campaign, realised that there were some additional elements that potentially we could add into that. And as I said before, shifting the attitudes and behaviour of men were our core focus. In terms of timelines, I said we've had 2 years. James, I might hand over to you to talk about these as well, mate. A lot more across them, particularly in a current sense.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Brent. 2-year project, of which the important phase of that time was the story sharing platform housed at betteroutthenin.com.au. So we have 10 4-minute videos of story sharers, AFL coaches, AFL past players and construction workers. So that's our hub, that's where we've got all our rich content. And now we're rolling into a evaluation phase. So Latrobe are a research partner, they're doing some great evaluation at different phases, and we're sort of creeping up to that. So early key findings are positive, but without having too much in depth, we're still awaiting that from them.
Absolutely. So we're just sharing, I guess, in terms of the methodology, and we're very much in that stage 5 at the moment now. And this presentation will be quite fast-paced because we want to get in and start to show you some of that content, which we might do now if we can get some support from the back.
I think as men that we generally, one of the challenges we've got is to be able to open up and talk about things a lot more than what we do, and that's probably one of the first hurdles to get over. I'm John Longmire, coach of the Sydney Swans, and through my experience, I can honestly say that it's better out than in. When I started playing at North Melbourne when I was 16, and I was straight off the farm, I really probably didn't understand what mental health was. I mean, I was trying to just get by and play AFL football, and we didn't talk about it, we didn't think about players' emotions and what they were going through from a mental health perspective. It wasn't on our radar. Now looking back on it, I certainly have a greater appreciation and a much better understanding of how players and how people and why they behave the way they do. When Paul Roos first took over here, I'll never forget the first thing he said, I'm not going to treat you all the same. I'm going to treat you all fairly, but I'll treat you as individuals. And that was something that certainly stood out in my mind and still stands out in my mind today. You can't really put people into certain boxes and this is how they'll behave and look out for this or look out for that. It's all different. And generally there is a lot of underlying things there that lead to those behaviours, and we try and channel that in and try and get into that. I can be talking to a player about football the whole time and not working out why he's not getting the message, but it's got nothing to do with football. And so that's how I coach them differently. If I find out that a player needs some help, well, let's stop talking about football for a second. Let's just address what's actually happening and get that right first and foremost. Firstly, you've got to create the environment that people in your organisation feel comfortable talking about it and aren't going to be accused of or looked at differently. And one of the first things you've got to break down as a coach to a player is don't worry about, we're not seeing it as you using it as an excuse, which they tend to worry about. It's not an excuse, it's a reason. And let's look at the reasons first. And you've also got to understand as a leader of an organisation that it's not going to be you that's going to solve all the problems, and it's not going to be you that actually the people come and talk to directly all the time. But understand that it might be a teammate that they talk to, it might be a staff member that they talk to, it might be the psych that they talk to. Who cares who it is? As long as the person that's really suffering or really finding things a challenge, as long as they talk to someone. It can be anybody in your organisation. And if they talk to someone and help that person steer them into a level of assistance that's available that everyone knows about, that's a great start. There is no question that we put so much time and effort into our physical capabilities. we need to put more time and effort into our mental health.
So we led with John's story around July. That was the launch of our campaign, public launch of our campaign, and obviously there was an incredible amount of media attention that was attached to that, given the public interest and some of the stories in and around the Sydney Swans Football Club as well on the back of last year. And I think it sort of speaks to, I guess, the openness and the courage of the participants that did put their hand up and got engaged. There was certainly a lot of diversity. James mentioned there's 10 stories up there, and I guess the perspective that each story sort of brings to it. John obviously being a leader of men and from an organisational perspective. We just want to share with you Kane's story and the relationship, I guess, that he has with Mates in Construction. So that'll be our next video we go to.
I think from day dot of working in construction, men have just always sort of struggled to open up and share their pain and share their stories and share their struggles. I myself sort of struggled with anxiety and depression over the years, and that's sort of how I got involved with Mates in Construction. I'm Kane Ansell. I'm a union delegate on a major construction site in Brisbane. I want you to know that it's better out than in. I think like the blokey culture of a construction site is very, very similar to a football club or sort of any sort of men's group. There's the sort of the macho-ness that's sort of associated with it, but there's also like the peer pressure and the culture, the unhealthy culture of people trying to fit in and be that sort of bloke that everyone sort of expects them and wants them to be. People have layers, and a lot of guys, particularly in construction, there's lots of layers with the men. So, you open up one issue and there's more that sort of follows. I usually disclose and open up on my junk and my stuff and my pain that I've been through. I find that when I take the initiative and share my pain, that it frees other guys to open up and share their stuff. It disarms them to be able to share. They feel comfortable to be able to share. Just having that rapport with a lot of the guys on site. Are they talking about issues at home? Is there money issues? Life's just no good, or I just can't get on top, those sort of stuff. A lot of the time it's just coming out forthright and just saying, hey, look, have you been thinking about taking your life? I think men appreciate it and respect it. To be able to ask that question and then them to be able to say, well yeah, I am, it really frees them up and sort of unlocks a bit of their pain. I think it's deemed on men not to open up. It's seen as a pussy or a weak thing to do. But I try to encourage them that it's a strength to open up. It's an asset to share your pain. It's an attribute of healing to start that process. When you take a beach ball or a volleyball or a basketball and you try to push that underwater, it naturally wants to come back up. When we've got stuff in our life, issues, pain, hurts, we try to push those things down in just the hope that they're going to go away, but they naturally want to come back up. And the fact that they naturally want to come back up means that they're there to be dealt with, and we've got to deal with that stuff. It can be painful, but the best thing that we can do is take ownership and deal with those things that are coming up.
Okay, so another example of that content. We've only got about 5 minutes left, so we're going to really cut to the chase here. I guess, in essence, this project is a digital platform supported by a multifaceted social media campaign. So we've leveraged the channels, I guess, that exist through the partnerships. We don't have time today to jump into into the website to give you a walkthrough. We encourage you to jump online and check it out. But essentially, it's a really simple mobile, I guess, developed with mobile first and foremost in mind. Really simple platform, housing stories Obviously, within each of those stories, there's some really practical tactics that we encourage guys engage in. So we've brought that to life in a number of ways. And then the key third piece there is the pathway through to action. So it's kind of this sort of cascading model. But social engagement was a big part of the campaign as well, something we gave a lot of thought to. We want to share with you an example of how we've, I guess, attempted to bring, I think we've succeeded, bring humour to the table through our tactics section.
Oh yeah, Terry. Far out. That guy is the master. And I mean like the Da Vinci of letting things rip. Doesn't matter what it is. Burping.
He's on it, he's
Farting.
moving.
Taking a leak. Unbelievable. Terry's got like this power. But at some point, even though Terry's the king of letting things out, you could see he was keeping something else in.
Always here, just talk.
And it took a mate to find the right time and ask him about it.
So we've had a little bit of fun there, and that's obviously the extended version, but essentially we created 5 sort of 30-second clips that played out in that social space to bring those tactics to life. We'll pass over to James now, who's going to talk about some of our other social engagement pieces.
I'll whip through this pretty quickly, but you can see the theme of, I guess, normalising the conversation through those previous videos. Another little promotional campaign we're sort of in the midst of at the moment is coffee cup branding. So we've dispatched 50,000 branded coffee cups with a simple message on them, hey, don't bottle things up, with a call to action on the back to have that social media and digital engagement. It's been really successful. It's just another little strategy to try and put this at the forefront of guys who are having coffee, and most people enjoy having coffee, so it's at a time when you might be happy. This has been pretty successful with the social media engagement and people actually sharing a selfie with their cup. So we've encapsulated the digital technologies with that. Another real positive of the project has been our social media engagement, and we've been able to leverage the AFLPA's heavy following, which has been positive, but the support, I guess, thrown around our story sharers has been really positive. The brave people who told their stories have realised that there are a lot of people out there that are right behind them and next to them. All it took was them to share their story. We're on the website, so there's been some good numbers on the website. Most importantly, the average time spent on the videos, so they're getting across the content that's being conveyed. Whip through to the next one. This is just, if we go back one more, Andrew Crowell was a video participant, and I guess the anecdotal results and soft data from his experience was really positive. He had hundreds of calls and Facebook messages, and many mates of his got in touch and said, mate, sensational what you did with that video. This is a good time for me to talk about how I've been travelling, and it started that conversation, which is really important. Another one, ex-Geelong rookie, he took to Facebook to share his story. It's a little snippet there, and it's a bit populated, but at the very end, he talks about the importance of campaigns like "Are you okay?" and in this instant, better out than in. And I've just a few snippets there from support from his teammates at the time and some general public, really opening up their arms and supporting these story sharers and people who want to help start the conversation and normalise the discussion. Again, we a bit pressed for time. Yep.
We are. But I just think it's pretty important, and we are pressed for time. Godfrey's given us the roundup, but it's pretty important to understand. That's all right. Just the incredible reach that the campaign has had. And on the back of that, some of the key learnings, I guess, that we've picked up. So we consider it to be a success as far as we're concerned. Again, waiting on that evaluation piece, but it hasn't been without its challenges. So I won't go through in detail that, rather let those points speak for themselves. I guess in terms of losses, we dealt with some, as I said, some pretty significant challenges, particularly around the digital creative project partners. How we actually manage the volume of contact coming back in and the processes in around that, and that's certainly an area that we absolutely addressed. But it's really difficult as well because we hadn't really imagined the amount of attention that the ambassadors themselves would have generated. So there was a level of training involved in that as well. And again, we're just a little bit restricted in terms of some of the opportunities, given the timeframes. Won't go into the evaluation piece because we clearly just don't have enough time. But in terms of next steps, I'll pass over to James to close it out.
Yep, so next steps, we're into our evaluation phase. So we're currently up to our second phase of evaluation, which we will develop into our final report, which will be published in mid-June. And yeah, we're looking to develop a sustainability strategy and different ways we can sort of encapsulate other communities of men and try and influence them as well. Yeah.
All right. That's it. Thanks very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed.